In this video, we'll be taking a quick overview look at the different texture nodes that are available in Maya. 2D textures, 3D textures, and environment textures. Textures are nodes that feed into materials that are created already in Maya. So let's create ourselves a Lambert shader, nice simple shader. And let's go in and create a checker shader. The checker is one of Maya's procedural shaders, meaning its components, its look can be changed from within Maya without having to go into an image editing application such as Photoshop. To connect any texture to a material, all you need to do is middle mouse button drag it over to that material's attribute in the attribute editor. To put the checker on the color, simply middle mouse button drag it over to the color attribute and release the mouse. To release it, right click on the attribute name and break connection. You can see in the hypershade that the line from the checker to the Lambert disappears. Let's do that again, except this time we'll middle mouse button drag the checker to the Lambert shader directly in the hypershade window itself. I'll release the mouse button, and this pop-up menu allows me to select color as the attribute. To disconnect it, I can simply select the connecting line and hit delete on my keyboard to disconnect it. That does not delete the shader, only the connection to it. Let's this time now put the checker shader onto the transparency of the Lambert. We'll go ahead and put that right there. And you can see that it's become see-through. The black portions create a transparency value of 0 because black is 0, and the white areas of the checker create a transparency of 1, meaning it is transparent in those areas. If we have a gray value, for instance, on the checker, I can change the value to a gray color, meaning now the transparency is altered. Let's go ahead and delete these guys. Other popular texture nodes in Maya are the ramp and the file. The ramp is another procedural texture node in Maya because you can change it easily within Maya itself. The ramp is easy to edit. Simply grab the round handle to move the position of that color in that gradient, or click on the X box, the delete box, to get rid of that altogether. Click inside the ramp to create a new handle. Select that handle to change its color. Let's go with yellow. Now we have a blue to yellow to red ramp. These textures are also coming in with a 2D placement node called Place 2D Texture. This will allow you to change the repeat values by changing repeat UV. Also, you can rotate the value with the rotate frame. Now let's move on to the file node, and this is probably the most often used texture node in Maya. It's different than the PSD file node. The PSD file node allows you to bring in a specific Photoshop format file. This is not recommended, however. It's much easier on the system to bring in regular files, and these include JPEGs, TIFFs, Targas, PNGs, almost any sort of file format. Typically, you'd want to use a TIFF, a Targa, or a JPEG. The file node in the attribute editor gives you the image name box, which opens the open file dialog, which allows you to bring in any sort of picture. Let's take a look at our B panel stripe and open that. This gives us that file. You have a handy thumbnail right here. Let's connect that to the color, and voila. To bring in more, simply click on the file to create a new file texture node. This time let's bring in another panel. We can do that with, let's bring in the A panel stripe. And there you go. Let's erase our work area and take a look at the fractal and the noise. These procedural shaders also have 2D placement nodes. Here, if you change the repeat value, you can get a much more higher frequency fractal based off of that. Same thing with the noise. These are very good textures to add a little bit of color, a little bit of variation to your color. We can do that easily by bringing in middle mouse button, dragging the Lambert over. And let's say we want to replace the color with the fractal. Now we have a very stony looking. We can replace that again with the noise, and you get two different noise patterns. Again, if you'd like a higher frequency, simply increase the repeat U and repeat V values. Also fairly popular is the water shader, which gives you a very simple water look. This you can assign to the Lambert. Let's go ahead and put it on the bump map. Now that we've connected a bump map to the Lambert, we're going to go ahead and select this plane that we have in the scene and assign the Lambert material and run a quick render. And you'll see that there's slight surface permutations to this object. If we disconnect the noise, you should be able to see the permutations in the surface a little bit better. There we go. You get a very slight feeling that there's some modulation to that surface. We can control that by clicking on the bump shader itself, the bump texture node, and bringing up the attribute editor and increasing the depth as you see fit. Now, a bump map is very simply created as a simulation to give you a sense that there's some sort of surface detail without actually doing anything to the surface itself. It's simply just a flat surface, but the bump map makes it look like there's a little bit of surface character to it, in this case using the water texture. Let's instead put the noise on the bump itself by simply going on the Lambert, middle mouse button dragging the noise back onto the bump map. That will replace the water texture that we had. We don't need this anymore. We can just hit delete to get rid of it. And now you've got a noise on this object. And if we re-render that, we'll see that you get a bit of a concrete. It's a little much, so let's turn that way down to about 0.2. And then we'll take a quick look at that. You'll see you've got a little bit of a noisy stucco texture. And again, this is just a simulation. The actual surface itself has not been altered, as would be the case if this were a displacement map, which is the difference between a bump and a displacement map. In this video, we took a look at some of the common 2D textures that are used in Maya, and we took a look at the all-important bump map, which gives you some surface detail, which is great for making objects look like they're more real.